Welcome to the first ever re-recorded episode of Locked On Cubs. It's 10:04 Central Time, but rumors are buzzing. Sean Murphy, Bogaerts, Swanson, a little Correa. Come on in. This is why we're pumped up. Join the show.
Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cubs alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Pleased to be with you for an exciting Tuesday episode, and thanks for making us your first listen every day. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion to a discussion with you on all things Cubs. And we're so passionate that, in fact, we're not even going to keep it a secret. We're going to break the so-called fourth wall in this business and let you know that actually about 60 minutes ago in real world time, we recorded an episode, and we have chosen to recycle that full show and re-record because the hot stove right now is popping. If you're not careful, you might get burnt because a lot of exciting stuff, Sam, and let's get into it.
We may have to save that episode because it was an episode where for the first time on this show, Mr. Matthew Cozy went on a long, solicited, angry rant about some Jed Hoyer quotes that were very fair at the time to be angry about. But since then, and it's only been about a half hour since we hit stop.
True.
Mark Feinsand, MLB.com executive reporter, Mateo, said this. The Cubs' interest in the free agent shortstop market has been no secret, but according to a source, there is a scenario in which the Chicago National League Ball Club, I threw that in there, could sign two of the three remaining star shortstops, that likely being Xander, Bogaerts, and Dansby, Swanson. And then after I called you to say, hey, we might have to scrap this, because things are popping off quickly. And by the way, folks, we're going to ignore whatever Matt's drinking during this show. He looks like he's like some sort of homeless beverage. But John Morosi, one of your favorites.
One of my Italian guy.
Cubs among the team. And I said it on this recycled episode. I said it yesterday. Didn't understand why they weren't.
This is so crazy, man.
Interested among the teams talking to Athletics catcher Sean Murphy. I'd like to start with that, Matt, if you don't mind. But first, what's your instant reaction? Let's go.
Well, I am truly fired up. And the reason for my negativity in the recycled episode and my pessimism was...
Pessimism,
excuse me. I can't even speak.
No, it's because of what you're drinking.
I can't even believe we're here. And I'm just drinking mountain water.
Yeah, sure.
It's live from the Alps, but I'm trying to cut back. But I'm just so jacked up right now.
Yeah,
and you know, you like to believe that Jed Hoyer is working. We know he is. He's met with everybody. He's done his due diligence. But now we're actually getting a lot more buzz and substantial rumors that we have not seen. And because it is so new, and because there's multiple big names involved, I think that the team then has stepped up their efforts in trying to get creative and trying to bring in more than one big name. And Sean Murphy,
no, that's what I want to talk about,
is a fantastic name, a catcher, and the idea of bringing in not one but two of those shortstops is almost beyond belief. But wait, there's more, because we have the report from NBC Sports Chicago that the Ricketts are doing everything that they can, have given Jed Hoyer the green light to spend,
which we knew.
And it's absurd right now. It's a lot of excitement in Cubs land.
Let's start with Sean Murphy, because I think our listeners, I'm not sure that the casual listener understands the value that he has.
Oakland A's catcher.
This might be the best trade piece on the market. He's a
Yes.
27-year-old catcher in his prime that's very solid defensively, but also offensively. By no means is he a liability.
Mhm.
Last year, he had 18 home runs in 148 games, a very respectable 759 OPS in a gigantic Oakland Coliseum that shouldn't be a stadium anymore, by the way.
Oh boy.
You
Yeah.
can make a very, very strong case that this man is a significantly better overall catcher than Wilson Contreras. So the question is, what will be his price? I've been reading and digging that it's pretty much is everybody on the table except for PCA? I hope not. I don't want to give up Mr. Alcantara on a deal like this. The Cubs have tons of prospect capital and maybe even some younger major league guys where they could put it together a deal. But if you're Oakland, why are you giving up a 27-year-old catcher in his prime? I got to look at what his contract situation is.
Yeah, please, because he's controllable for a while.
Yeah, right. So why are you giving that guy up unless you're not looking for, you're looking for a huge haul back. So if the Cubs do make this deal, don't flinch if you see some of our more notable, prospects in there, because that's probably what it's going to take to get a
Mhm.
guy like this. Now, I've also seen some ideas. Well, hey, the Cardinals really need a catcher. The Cubs are just in on this to drive their price up. Similarly to why the Cardinals now are rumored in the Dansby Swanson stakes to maybe drive the Cubs price up. Who knows? It's all gamesmanship. But I'm so thrilled that the Cubs are in this because I was screaming on the episode that we recycled. Why aren't they? Remember?
Yeah, they should be. It's a position of need right now. It's Yan Gomes as the starter and PJ Higgins as the backup, and Miguel Amaya, who's on the mend from injury, is waiting in the wings. So there's a clear need there, especially not just as an upgrade or a complement to Gomes, but to really take over the position. And to get a young catcher like that would be huge. And I know the
He's
Guardians have been
pre-arbitration.
mentioned.
He's
Yeah,
he's
well, that's
controllable
wild.
until 2026.
The Cardinals have been mentioned, the Guardians, the Braves were once in this discussion. So some other teams, as there should be. And I think what it's going to take, Sam, is, and I don't know the exact tiers, but what I'm just going to give it to you like this. I think it would take to win that bid. I think you would trade at least 2 top 30 prospects and maybe 3. I mean, Murphy's pre-arb. That means you don't even
Right.
get to the table and exchange figures.
Right.
He's making 750 grand this year.
No, it's going to take a lot to get him. But
It's going to take a
man,
lot.
I'll tell you this: if you get Sean Murphy and you just get one of the 2 guys we mentioned at shortstop, and you get Mr. Bellinger or a defensive center fielder, I'm getting playoff ticket.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, Murphy is a good place to start because he's a new
We haven't
name.
even talked pitchers yet.
Yes. I mean, we physically in the real world here on Earth have talked pitchers,
Yeah.
but not on this episode.
Yeah. Let's
Where
sorry,
do you
go ahead.
let's
Go ahead,
let's
Murphy.
I would like to at least I want to be a little bit organized. I know
Yeah.
it's a hectic show
No,
and
I
you're
know,
going
I'm
to
sorry.
share in our excitement. We're excited for you to do that.
Sorry. I'll calm down. a bit.
I think we should. Do you want to keep going on Murphy, or do you want to pivot? Or
No. Do you have anything more to add than I had? I'm fine, kind of being you for this show because I have a kind of a direction in my
Yeah.
head I want to take it,
okay, good.
but we
So
didn't have time to discuss it.
I like that. I mean, I love that the Cubs are in on Murphy. What it says to me is
Yeah.
that they have exchanged names. So
course.
the Cubs and A's have exchanged names. We're getting reports about that they're in on it. So it's nothing like, oh, they're close on a deal, but I think now they're in position to make one. And
Yeah.
that's incredibly thrilling.
And by the way, it wouldn't be the first time the Cubs and A's have hooked up on a deal.
That's
Remember,
true. They
Remember
do have
Addison
past
Russell?
history. Yeah.
Remember Rich Hard?
Yes, I do.
You know what I mean? I don't know. All right, listen. Let's take a quick breather, go to second, and coming up, I'll do that. Coming up after the show, a little
Okay.
Bogaerts and Swanson. How possible is that? How realistic is that? And what do you want to see?
And we'll do that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends, for every professional amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. And welcome back into Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen. And if this is your first time here, please stay with us all week. We will be live if the Cubs, if and when they make a move, we'll break in live as best we can. And then we'll always do our regular episodes as well. And I think that this episode is, I'm going to say with 100% certainty, especially if you are here for the first time, give you plenty of a glimpse of what we're doing here. And I think we're pretty confident in that. Mark Feinsand just changed the whole hot stove for me. So remind us what he reported.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
I was waiting. I didn't know if you had. Yeah. So he came out and said that there's a possibility from a source that Bogaerts and Swanson could be Cubs. Now, I still think that that's probably unlikely, but I think it makes it even more likely that one of those two is going to be on the team. Obviously, you kill two birds with one stone if you do that, and you have an infield now of Bogaerts at third, Swanson at short, Horner at second, and Mervis at first. That immediately becomes one of the best infields in baseball, even without knowing what Matt Mervis is going to provide. Now, of course, Bogaerts, would he convert to third? Does he want to? Can he? I think all those answers would be yes at the right price. That would cost a lot of money. That would mean the Cubs are taking two guys away from the market. Like I said, I still think it's unlikely, but the fact that it's out there means that one of those two guys is coming here. Now, I got a lot of flack on yesterday's show, Matt, for changing my stance on Dansby Swanson, because originally I called him a diet soda acquisition, and I did about 45 minutes of homework on Saturday afternoon after my Argentina football game. They took care of Australia. I was in a good mood, and I realized that this guy isn't that. He is one of the best defensive players at his position in all of the game, and his position is the most premium position in all of the game. He had I saw a stat today, I think it was Matt Clapp on Twitter that posted it, that he would have hit 33 home runs at Wrigley Field this year, given a ballpark adjustment and things like that. He's hit for some power in his career, and with the shift, the defense is going to become even more important. And having Horner at second base, I think he'll be one of the best defensive second basemen in all the game. And then having one of the best defensive shortstops in all the game, plus Swanson's intangibles. He won a college national championship at Vanderbilt. He won a World Series with the Atlanta Braves. He's a winner. I don't think that that's a diet soda move anymore. I thought about it. I'm not trying to defend this or make excuses for Jed to spend less money. That's not what I'm doing. I just don't. I don't think that makes sense. Bogaerts is different. He's not the player Dansby is defensively, but the bat is probably the most proven bat at the position on the market. And if you land both, I mean, I'll let you talk, Matt. I mean, if you land both, that's, now we're talking about probably buying one of our listeners' season ticket.
Well, it's unreal. It would be unreal if they land both. You talk about price points, or you think about price points. Trey Turner, is off the market. He signed with the Phillies.
We didn't mention that because we talked about it so much on the other show. Sorry.
He signed with the Phillies on Monday, 11 years, 300 M's. So, Swanson and Bogaerts, I didn't see any projections yet about their number even starting with a 2, much less a 3. And you figure that Correa would probably be a little closer to Turner, and that those guys were probably in another tier in terms of payment than Bogaerts and Swanson. But
right.
if the Cubs are willing to go into a number in the 2s or the 3s, and they could get 2 of the players, that would be pretty incredible. And if we have these reports that Tom Ricketts and the ownership are basically saying, hey, you're talking to both of these guys, both guys like this franchise, maybe it's not a matter of picking one or the other or stepping up the offer for one or the other, but now we can pitch it as a tandem acquisition. And now we're letting Swanson's camp in on, hey, Xander's really interested in coming here. And by the way, you can still too. He's going to move to third. You're going to play short. Nico Horner, a future superstar, as we've called him, is going to play second. And let's ride.
Yeah, and I still think it's unlikely.
I mean,
so
come on.
I'm not going to get too crazy over it.
No, you should, because that's part. We got to show. I'm jacked up right now. This is crazy.
Trey Turner was never going to be a Cub. I think I mentioned that multiple times in this program.
He wasn't, no.
And signing him to an 11-year deal is not smart if you're the Cubs, because that deal's not going to look good. That's a deal the Phillies are making to win a World Series in the next 2 or 3 years, and obviously that's fine. I don't think his deal really set the market in a negative impact for the Cubs. The only thing I could really possibly think of, and I even mentioned on yesterday's show, I thought Bogaerts and Swanson would set the market, so Turner going early is interesting. The only thing I could think of now, does Correa demand 10 or 11 years, which would impact the Cubs, because they're not going to give that to anybody. They're not at that point. They're not in their window yet to do that. So I think it makes that a little bit unrealistic. But we don't know that. Maybe Correa is just like, hey, I just want a higher AAV. But whatever. My point is, I got a lot of texts about, trade that really hurts the Cubs. I don't really see it's a small. It's not that didn't really do much to the market. I don't think. I think that's a good deal for Turner. Happy for him and his grandchildren, future. But it doesn't really hurt the Cubs. But the main thing is this, Matt. We were upset over Jed Hoyer's quote about an hour ago that basically said, hey, we're going to do everything we can to sign people, but if we don't, it's not through lack of trying. And you had a great rant about it, and I hope we saved it, because it'll make for a great blooper one day after we win our 3rd World Series in 6 years. But at the end of the day, it's not about trying, right? It's about executing. And we have labeled this offseason the biggest in Jed Hoyer's career, and the biggest for the Chicago Cubs probably since the offseason going into 16, where they added a guy by the name of Ben Zobrist and many others. It Lackey and so on and so forth. They had to get it done. They have to get it done. And I think our excitement right now is that we really hadn't seen those big, strong, hot stove rumors that made us feel. It kind of was always like, yeah, they're in on this, yada, yada, yada. Now there's some real smoke and fire coming around the shortstop position and now these trades. The one thing that we haven't seen too much of, and we'll get to this, I'll let you decide how you want to do it, because I don't know what I'm doing, is the pitching market. We hadn't heard a peep on Senga until about an hour and 10, and we're still, for some weird reason, not even linked at all to Carlos Rodon when he's the best pitcher left in this market, and he's asking for what I think is a pretty fair deal. But overall, at 10:22 p.m. Central Time on Monday night, I'm starting to feel things.
We know for sure that the Cubs have made contact, and beyond that with the shortstops. We know that they're in now on Murphy, and we know from Morosi as well, they're in on Senga and other names that we'll get to on the other side. But the thing now is, and now thinking about the recycled episode, is it would be absurd if they don't do one of these things.
Sure.
Because you have the capability and the resources to do it. You have the monetary resources. Okay. You're in the number 3 market in the nation.
Yeah.
You
best
have
fans
your own,
in the world.
Best fans in the world. You have your own TV channel that produces $90 million of revenue to the team annually.
Yeah. Nobody.
You have Rickettsville outside. You have all these things going on. I am a little fatigued. I'm a little tired about hearing about being in the mix, and we're going to try, and Gallagher Way, and the marquee ratings.
The Winter Wonderland.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
When we talk about Game On, it's cool branding, and we should actually probably lean into it a little more. Yeah. But Game On, because
it's time.
Yeah, this is the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be absurd, or are you kidding me moment, if they don't make an acquisition like this, because if nothing happens and Jed comes out and does his dance, good luck with that. Because that's not going to work anymore, player.
No, and
You can't do that, especially after this heat tonight.
no, but he knows
This is straight heat.
yeah, you can't let put that drink down. You
I
can't
apologize.
you can't let this heat out and then not do anything. It'd be the ultimate disaster. I would go to the Winter Wonderland at Wrigley Field and rob it.
I'm going in a couple weeks.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
All right, so I have one more question before the pitching discussion. And that is it's a good problem to have, right? Would you rather have Bogaerts and Swanson or Carlos Correa?
Oh, Bogaerts and Swan. That's an easy one. Not even close.
Okay.
Not even close. You think he's worth more than 2? I thought you were going to say, let me counter. Would you rather have
Yeah.
Bogaerts and Swanson or one of Bogaerts and Swanson and Sean Murphy?
Wow, that's hard.
I still think it's the former. Those are two.
I really like Murphy.
Yeah, I like Murphy too, but I still think it's you get Bogaerts and Swanson. Now you got two guys that are our listeners from Alabama. Do you remember those two boys' names?
The Walkers.
The Walkers that are lining up, and they got new jerseys to wear. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. And you could still sign Christian Vasquez or Omar Narvaez.
Yeah, or whatever. But you get those two guys, and all of a sudden, you take that walk to Wrigley Field, and I'm getting a couple new jerseys.
That's true. No, that's a game
Not
changer.
saying I wouldn't buy a Sean Murphy jersey, but I wouldn't.
Right. But it's all good things though right now.
Can you imagine that infield?
No, it's hard to believe.
I mean, Bogaerts is one of the best pure middle infield hitters in the game the last 4 or 5 years.
Of this generation.
Swanson defensively is a vacuum, and you know how I feel about Nico Horner.
Right. And then Matt Mervis is Rookie of the Year candidate.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm done. I said that yesterday.
Well,
I'm done with the projection. We'll see. March 30th with Mervis. I'm done. I'm so tired of will he do this? Is he going to hit a fastball, breaking ball? March 30th, we'll find out.
Yes, but obviously the Kool-Aid is flowing, and we're going to continue this with the pitching discussion. We're going to ask some questions about Carlos Rodon and then zoom in on Senga and the middle tier coming up next. We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Very exciting episode here on the program here on a Tuesday. I think we want to be sure to refresh our feeds just in case anything weird happens.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, good. This is actually our second time recording, as we mentioned earlier, and we're glad to do it. Though this is what we signed up for.
Wow, I got some breaking news.
Are you kidding me?
The Cubs have signed Sandy Koufax. Oh no, that didn't happen. He still looks like he can pitch, though.
That's not nice.
Okay, sorry.
All right. We did have breaking news, though, earlier on Monday. Justin Verlander went to the Mets, 2 years, 86 M's. That's following Jacob deGrom's departure on Friday night, going to the Texas Rangers. And so now Carlos Rodon is the top starting pitcher still available. He certainly is in a tier of his own. And I'm wondering why the Cubs haven't been linked to him as much as they really haven't at all.
No,
it's really
zero.
Just been from us.
Zero. No links.
And so officially no links. Joel Sherman said over the weekend 150 M's. Obviously, the Cubs have their hand in other players, especially offensively. So perhaps it's a situation where they are prioritizing the money elsewhere. But you said it so well, probably at this point 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The starting rotation, for as good as it is and homegrown as it is now, does need that player X.
Yeah, it's lacking swing and miss.
And a player from the middle tier is probably not player X. They're not an ace. Senga is in his own tier. He's very enticing. But Rodon is the number one. He would be the number one pitcher. Unfortunately, the Northsiders have not really been in on him at all. The Senga market was very quiet, connected to the Cubs up until John Morosi reported that they are among the teams in on him, but there's a dozen teams in on him. So we'll see what happens there. That would probably be a player where there's probably going to be a franchise that so-called overbids. I could see that. But the pitching market still needs to be a focus, right?
Yeah, it does, and I agree with you. The only defense I could think of on Rodon is his arm and his arm trouble, and if they're gonna,
Okay.
but I agree with you. I mean, they should at least be in on it, having a discussion. Like, what if Rodon thinks that Rodon is a special talent? I mean, like,
Yeah.
what if he were to say, hey, you know what? I want a deal like Verlander's, and then I'll get even a bigger deal. Wouldn't be smart with his injury history, but I'm just saying I think the Cubs should explore all avenues with him because he's the most talented swing and miss pitcher left. Now that I think he's more I think he's a better get than Verlander at this point in their career. Obviously, DeGrom would be leading that category. Senga, we didn't hear anything until tonight, but it's also, you got to remember, these are human beings here. They may just have be focused on what we just heard and then come back to the pitching market later. Right. I've said this and I'll say it again. I don't think the Cubs can be taken seriously as a contender until they have a guy on their rotation that I feel like can dominate at any time. Marcus Stroman, good pitcher. Justin Steele probably was a really good pitcher this year, probably going to be a good pitcher. Kyle Hendricks, very unknown heading into this offseason. At his best, a very good pitcher. Sampson, Smiley, Smiley, we don't know, he's a free agent, but Sampson, Wisniewski, Thompson, whoever it is, all nice pieces. Look at the World Series, right? Like look at the playoffs. Guys are throwing 100. Guys are missing bats. Framber Valdez and Verlander and Zach Wheeler and Nola, those guys, with all due respect, are a tier above anybody that the Cubs have. And and when you look at the World Series team that won the Cubs, you had three of the very best pitchers in the National League. Granted, those guys were helped out a ton by one of the best defensive teams in MLB history. And I think that's kind of Jed's thought process with Dansby is,
could be.
You have Stroman, who's an aggressive ground ball pitcher. At his best, Hendricks is the same. It's like, hey, maybe we could elevate those guys if we have the best infield defense in baseball again. But still, with that being said, Jake Arrieta was missing bats. John, I mean, you don't have to go look at the stats of those guys. I still think to be taken very seriously, you have to have that guy where you could be facing the Yankees, you could be facing the Astros or the Dodgers, and it's like, hey, he's got a slider today. His fastball's being located. It's over. 7 innings, 10 Ks. Good night. But I'm not gonna overreact to that right now. Let's just let it go for a little bit.
And speaking of Lester, there was a report Monday as well that he's helping recruit Bogaerts. There's, of course, a lot of parallels with those players potentially going from the Red Sox to the Cubs. So pretty cool there.
And can I say one quick thing?
Yes.
There is parallels. This is very much a 2014 to 2015 offseason when they signed Lester. It's like, hey, we think we got a chance to be solid next year. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win 97 games like they did in 15. That's not going to happen. But the ideas are still the same. Hey, let's get some guy that's going to be the pillar of this team, and let's let the rest of the league and our fans, most importantly, know we're serious about this thing. And that's what John Lester did, and hopefully that's what either Bogaerts or Swanson does for this club. And let me tell you, I'm feeling it.
Absolutely. And what's exciting is the Cubs could do all of that. And so we're going to keep an eye on that. We'll be here with you live when something breaks, and also for our regular episodes throughout the week. So very thankful to re-record. We're excited to be with you tonight. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts on the audio side. And you can always drop us a text throughout the week, 312-834-4634. Anything else?
The Chicago Cubs have made their first free agent signing. 6'6" from North Carolina. Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan. Sorry, I'm just pumped up.
We're getting a little loopy here.
Yeah.
All right, stay with us all week long. Exciting stuff on the hot stove with all things Cubs. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy, and this has been an exciting Winter Meetings edition of Locked On Cubs.